Hi guys, it's Michelle from Tape and Twine. Thanks for joining me today. I have a quick little fun video of a project for Christmas I think you're gonna like. I literally taped it soon after I thought of it, so I'm working it out on camera as you're seeing it. So now that I've done the project, I just want to make a couple little changes to my instructions. I have our materials as being polymer clay. I think that you can definitely substitute some kind of, any kind of clay that hardens for polymer clay. Even a salt dough recipe like what we used to make when we were kids would be fine. We're essentially just making shapes that we cut out like sugar cookies and using those as hard blanks. So I'm thinking air drying clay might work, and some kind of a salt dough recipe, or even hard chipboard. The other thing is I'm using Mod Podge, and I go back and forth on whether or not it should be diluted or full strength. I think I've decided full strength is best, but you can adapt it to your needs. Also, you can substitute Mod Podge. You can do Elmer's glue, white school glue, PVA glue, anything that's water-based that can be diluted if you need it a little thinner. So I hope you'll enjoy it. It's really fun, and I think it's important this time of year to just take some time out and do something creative. I hope that it's something you can do with your family, or maybe you can do alone and just unwind a little bit. So let's jump into it and get started. It is 1 week before Christmas, and I wanted to make a very, very simple DIY ornament using some very basic items that you have around your house and a very little investment, where you can make a really pretty ornament for your tree or tags for your packages. So here's what we're going to use today. We're going to use some regular tap water, and you can either use a watercolor, just a water brush, or Q-tips, cotton swabs, whatever you have. I'm using some watered down Mod Podge, and you can get Mod Podge at the dollar store for about $1. This one actually came from there. You can get it at Target or craft supply places. I like to water mine down when we're working on this type of a project. It makes it go farther, and it's not quite as thick. I'm using regular napkins, like the really pretty ones that you buy when you have, you know, a holiday event, and then you always have some hanging around after. Keep them, because this is what we're going to be using as our main decor. And then I have these clay shapes, simple clay shapes that I've cut out of polymer clay. I've simply bought store-bought polymer clay, Sculpey brand. I've rolled them out and cut them at about 1/4 inch and baked them in the oven at 275. Very simple. If you need any more information on working with polymer clay because you're not comfortable having these blanks ready, I'll link a couple of my other polymer clay classes below, and you can go in and learn a little bit more about how to work with polymer clay. But this is extremely basic. Anybody can do this. If you can roll sugar cookies, it's the same process. It's just getting polymer clay and conditioning it, rolling it out, cutting the shapes, and baking it in a 275 oven for 15 minutes to a half an hour. And that's it. And then you get these very sturdy blanks. So let's start. One of the products I did not mention was Scotch tape. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a blank, and then we're going to choose some kind of graphic that we want to put on here. So I'm going to start first off with something super easy, something that would be very easy to picture. I have this sweet little bird, and I think this bird will be adorable on this blank. So what you want to do is you want to open up your napkin. You want to take a piece of Scotch tape or any kind of tape. take a little of the stick out and then pull up. That is going to help pull off the layers we don't need. Now, there may be 2 or 3 ply, and you won't know that until you try. So here we go. There was a second ply there. So now we are down to the basic one, and you can see how sheer it is. Now, believe it or not, napkins are not easy to tear properly. You know, they kind of tear in strange ways because of the way they're knit or they're threaded together. And if you cut them, the edges are just too strong, I believe, when you decoupage. So what I like to do is I like to take some water and a Q-tip, and I like to draw the shape that I want to rip. And it rips so easily on that line. And if you can tell, this edge here, this frayed edge, kind of disappears when we decoupage it on. So then what we want to do is we want to put a very, very light layer of glue on our clay. And what I like about Mod Podge is the fact that it's very water-based and it goes well with polymer. It's not going to react at all with the polymer. And then you're going to find where you want to put this bird. I'm going to put him here. And I'm just going to lightly tap him on. And then I'm going to very, very carefully take my Mod Podge water, my water down, and I'm just going to do the top. And you don't want to rip the napkin, so you want to just gently brush it, and then any kind of wrinkle, which I don't mind the wrinkles a little bit. It makes it look more homemade and it gives it a little texture. I mean, I don't want a ton of them on this particular one, but I just sort of start working out those wrinkles. And then I'm going to put that one aside and let it dry just a bit. I'm going to move on to my second one. Now I'm going to try a different pattern this time. This isn't your typical holiday. It's got some really interesting colors. See that layer, how delicate it's going to be once you get all the layers off. Now this is a very interesting, this would be pretty just for some kind of a woodland decor. It wouldn't necessarily even need to be a holiday decoration. I'm going to go around the deer. Rip the deer out. But then I'm going to isolate some of these botanicals. I really like the leaves and the sticks and the pine. And I'm going to actually not worry about them even being in a straight kind of a organized cut. I don't mind that they're a little choppy. Okay, so now let's get a different one. Now this one I'm going to go on not quite straight. I think I'm going to have the blue leaf go across like this. But then I might want to layer another leaf. I think I'm going to do that there. Now, because it's black, usually the napkins sort of, you can layer them and you won't see what's underneath, but because this is black, oh, look what I just did. But look at, no worries. Let's just pull that off. This is actually good because I can show you that you can take something that's not perfect and maybe even had a mistake in it, and you can add I like this like purple splotches thing kind of thing there. I'm going to have that go right through the center. And you can layer. This one was so simple with it, the image being a specific image you wanted to center. But with this, you can kind of really play around. With just layering color. It's a very, very relaxing and fun kind of a project because you can just really play and have fun with it. So I'm going to move that one aside. And let's do a little layering where you can see the layers. I'm going to use two different kinds of snowflakes. I'm going to use a red snowflake, and I'm going to use a silver snowflake. And in this case, I'm just going to cut two small sections rather than, and you could do this if you were doing this with a party of several people, or if you were doing this with kids or with friends. You could pre-cut the napkins ahead of time so that you didn't have all this massive napkin everywhere. Make it a little bit more manageable. You could even make up kits and then do a Zoom call and make this project. Now, I don't know if there is another layer on this one. This might have only been a 2-ply. So I'm going to try on the corner where I don't care. Oh, and there was another layer. Sometimes it's very hard to tell. And it's so sheer. Okay, let's see if this one has another layer. And it does. I guess most napkins are 3-ply, but I think you can't just assume that. You have to make sure that you're kind of plucking away where you don't mind if it rips it, it's in an okay place. So I think I definitely want, I'm not a center person. Maybe someone would want this right on center. But see, I kind of like things that are a little off center for me. So I am going to just trace this like this. You could make so many blanks and then just really play. And again, this is something people of all ages and abilities can do. I really like I like that red. That's so, that in itself is just so simple and pretty. But now I want to layer a few of the whites and the golds on top. Now that black napkin we used, you can't really do that because you're not really seeing the layers because that black napkin is very dark. But these are so sheer. Let's see what happens. Now I've already painted on top of there, so it should be sticky. I'm gonna put it right. Let's see. I'm gonna do that. And again, just a light tap with the glue water is all you need. And the more you layer, the more wrinkly it is going to be. And I don't mind that look. It's going to look like layered paper. And later we can do something with that if you'd like. See the texture we can get on that? I think I'd like one more little snowflake down here. Let's put a white one down there. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry. Okay. This time, I'm just gonna put a little dab of Mod Podge right there. And I'm gonna spread it around. So I have this bit of napkin, and Santa's face is going to be way too big, but I just love that writing. So I'm going to take that writing off. And see how it tears right on the line. And now I've used regular Mod Podge because I want to see if it dries quicker. I'm so used to doing classes at like a art center or with people, and we're trying to make our supplies go farther, but I want to give it a try with full-on Mod Podge to see if the average person at home, if you'll get a better result or if you will get a faster result if you use full strength. So I have this one with a Santa. And I want to mix him on this one. So I'm going to cut him out roughly. And then we're going to use that tape to get the layers off. Now this napkin feels very brittle. It's a different feeling than the other ones. Okay, now I want to take my water and I'm going to go way around his face. I think I want to come a little bit closer in because I want to be closer to those words. And I love that rough edge. I'm going to put a little bit more Mod Podge because it looks like it has dried just a little bit. And I do want to be aware of where the hole is. And I can see it's right there. Now, I actually don't mind using the full strength Mod Podge, so I guess you could make adjustments to that depending on how much you wanted to use. Well, let's see how the results come out. So I'm going to let him dry over here. can also use a hair dryer to speed up the process. Now I think that big Santa face I had is way too big for this. I don't mind that at all. Let's give that a shot, shall we? Let's use a little of this map that was on this other one. And maybe here's that napkin. I like that this says Dear Santa. Okay. So at this point, we have 5 ornaments that we've done in a very short time. And they need to be dried. So you could leave them to air dry, or you could dry them with a blow dryer. I'm going to take them away and use a blow dryer just because it'll be quicker. And now a little break for technical difficulties. Apparently, after I dried the ornaments, I came back and thought I put the camera on, and I did not. So you missed me decoupaging the backside with those very same napkins the very same way. And then I returned to the blow dryer, and then I dried the second side. So now let's pick up on the video and resume. Okay, so now I've blow dried the second side. I'm going to peel away the deer on the side. And it's jagged. So what you're going to do is take a little bit of Mod Podge. Just go around the edge and press down and paint down the edges of black to smooth that all in. You can even take your finger and mold it in. Which could be easier with the only problem with your finger is you just don't really want it to stick. You don't want your finger to stick. You want the napkin to stick. I have 2 teeny tiny pieces. There. Actually, that is a cute side. So now we want to make those holes where and you can use anything to poke the hole. And then you can take some Mod Podge on a Q-tip and just go through. And all you're doing by doing that is pressing the napkin in. And then you can double check any place on your ornament that you think is either too thick or needs a little bit more Mod Podge or needs to be glued down. I think on the back here I got one little spot that could use just a little bit more glue just to make that nice and smooth, get that edge nice and clean. Let's check this guy. So his face continues with his hat over there. I like the words on that. Decoupage 25. Then that's the back of this one. Here's our front of this one. I think we need just a little, no, that's I think where there was a bubble. Now this one has this on the back, which is not very Christmassy. Actually, we need a little bit more black there. This is the nice thing about working with napkins and decoupage. It's so easy to patch and mold and put where it needs to be. And I like that side. That's kind of cute. It's very kind of masculine. You know, if you didn't want a really typical Christmas ornament. Okay, so we made five ornaments very quickly. So now, the finishing step. They could be done just as you see them. But I'm going to take gilding wax. Now, you can use acrylic paint. You could use eye makeup that's very sparkly. If you wanted to use that, it's like some really cheap eyeshadow. If you don't have gilding wax. And all I do, usually it's very smooth and easy to spread. But because mine is on the older side, it's dry, so I have to add a little water. So let's start with, I'm going to start with this guy. And I'm just going to go in the silver. And this is going to be very subtle. Like, you probably won't even be able to see it much on camera. But it's just giving it sort of a sheen. And a more finished look around the edge. And I'm actually going to put it all over the back because I want to kind of highlight those wrinkles and make it look more decoupaged. All right, give that a second to dry. wash my fingers because I'm not going to, oh, I think I'll use the silver on this because I think the silver will stand out. Actually, I'm going to try the copper. And you'll be able to see the result a little bit more on this one. I don't know if you can see that, but you can, it makes a nice frame, and then you can come on the edges and do the edges. Now again, you could paint after your ornament is dry, you could paint with acrylic paint and get the same effect. I just find gilding wax to be something that's super easy to work with. I like the results, and if you're a crafter, you might already have some. And if you feel like you got heavy-handed, you can just go in and clean that up with a Q-tip. So now when we come to these Santas, I think I want to work with gold. I'm not sure. I definitely want to put the gold on this edge. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if I want the gold to go over his hat, especially since we carried it over. So I'm going to just do a little bit on that edge. And I know my hands are getting very sparkly. I definitely want gold on this one, and I think I want gold on the whole edge. This one almost has a paper mache look to it because I put a lot of layering and there's some wrinkling, and the wrinkling definitely gives it that paper mache look, which is kind of cool and very sort of old-fashioned and handmade. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to take pictures in natural light after because the lighting is really bad in here. Now I'm going to go across here with the gold. And I'll take a piece of beautiful ribbon and tie each one with beautiful ribbon. And I think that's going to really enhance the look as well. And you can see where you could really put out a whole big batch of these. You could decoupage them all in one night, let them stay out and dry, and then the next day do the final touches to them. So after these dry, you can simply thread them with a beautiful ribbon, or you can first coat them. I like to coat my projects with Duraclear High Gloss. It's from DecoArt. You can get it in smaller containers than this at the craft store, and it just protects the project and makes it, you know, waterproof, and it'll keep it from, you know, over the years weathering poorly on, you know, if you're storing in the attic and then bringing them out or exposing them to hot and cold. I just like to varnish, but that's totally up to you, and that's after everything is dry. And just so you know, it goes on clear. And it gives it a very glossy, finished look. So I'm going to let these all set. I'm going to give them my coat of Duraclear, and then I will come back and show you what they actually look like in natural light. So here's the finished product. I put some beautiful red ribbon through the ornaments, and I took them outside to take some pictures so you could actually see what they look like in the light, and then I hung them inside on my tree. And it reminded me of how my mom and myself both made all our own ornaments when we first started out and didn't have a whole lot of money. And this would be a perfect project for that. If you're just starting out and you want to either make your own ornaments or you can't really afford to buy a bunch, just get some napkins and make your own. They come out really, really nice. And do you remember that little bird that I made? Well, I have to say he inspired me to make a little set of 3, and I took some I guess it's like twine ribbon, and I took some embroidery floss and I made some simple stitches in the red ribbon, which I think gives it a nice little homey touch to it. I put some metal eyelets in it, and each of the 3 ornaments I made are slightly different. There's 3 different shapes, and one's looking at a star, one's looking at a moon, and one is just walking across. And I think it makes a sweet little gift or a sweet little trio. On the back, I focused on the little feet, and I'm really happy with how they came out. I hope you'll give it a shot too. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I really appreciate you stopping by, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.